Mark here again, cooking books, bringing information. You know how I do. So I talked about the law of segregation, the law of independent assortment, genetic variation, genotype, phenotype. I've been talking about a lot of these things. In my last video, I talked about being an extraordinary dude, right? Now, there's a lot of dudes out there, and if you do an assessment of yourself, a deductive reasoning, by means of deductive reasoning, and you assess yourself and put a true value, you don't over-exaggerate, you don't hyperbolize, but you put a real-time value on yourself. And if you find out that you're extraordinary, then good for you. Good for you. You know what I mean? I found out I'm extraordinary, right? I'm an extraordinary person. And here's the thing, whether you believe that or not is irrelevant. The reason why I know I'm extraordinary is because I studied the Copenhagen interpretation. Go read about Schrodinger's cat. Schrodinger's cat, Copenhagen interpretation. Read about, wave particle duality and the outcomes of wave particle duality. I'm not going to give it all to you. I'm just going to give you those. Go research those, and you'll see why I say I'm an extraordinary dude. My research in all those fields led me to why I say I'm an extraordinary dude. Now, if you're an extraordinary dude out there, let me tell you this. You cannot be with an ordinary person. In terms of dating, relationships, so on and so forth, you can't be with an ordinary person if you're extraordinary. If you do, and take this from me, I've learned this lesson, you will be in violation of the laws. There are certain laws of resonance, laws of frequency. There are certain laws of the universe, scientific laws, data, that you will be in violation of. And because you are in violation, it's only a matter of time before the universe balances itself out, and that relationship you're in is going to eventually fizzle out. And the reason it's going to fizzle out because, again, it's in violation of the physics. It's in violation of the laws of physics. And what I mean by that, let me give you some examples. I talked about this in my last video, but I'm going to reiterate it again because it's very important. Chromosomes will only pair with other chromosomes that's called homologous. Homologous meaning they have the same nature. And they will pair with homologous chromosomes. And if they're not homologous, they won't pair. The laws of resonance, same thing. Frequencies, energies, will only correspond with other energies that have a corresponding equivalence. And I can break it down by saying if whatever the entity is, all things vibrate, everything has a vibratory nature. The vibratory nature is what gives it gives it its frequency. So if it's vibrating and its frequency is, let's say, 25 cycles per second, it can only correspond to another vibratory entity that has that 25 cycles per second vibratory nature. So if there's not a equivalency in terms of their vibratory nature, those entities or those energies or those frequencies won't match. They won't correspond. And why is that important? Because everything in the universe is made from the corresponding of frequencies in their vibratory nature. And when they correspond, they vibrate, and in vibration, they create matter, which from matter, we get all material, which from materials, we get all objects, which from all objects, we get me, you, this chair I'm sitting on, this phone, this computer, everything, right? So we see the importance of the patterns. There's a pattern. Even if you look at, if you're an architectural design, you're an architect, right? And you build buildings, you look at what's called fractals, and you look at what's called geometric designs, geometry, right? And in terms of fractals, shapes, and geometry, you'll see that there's patterns in the universe. There's patterns in nature. Trees, no matter where you go, all trees have the same general pattern. There's a tree stump that grows up, then you have the branches that offshoots, and you have the leaves. And if you climb up to a mountaintop and you look at all the trees, you would see the beauty. The beauty lies in their geometry, right? The way they shape. Their shape gives them their glory, right? If you look at buildings, certain buildings have a certain design. Geometric, it's a certain geometric design. And when you look at the skyscrapers, when you take a bird's eye view, you see the beauty because of its geometric design, its shape. The reason why it's beautiful is because, remember, everything vibrates. There's a vibratory nature in everything. So when you look at these trees that have these geometrical shapes and designs, when you look at these buildings, the edifice, when you look at all the geometry in the universe, they're called fractals, the patterns, you realize the beauty lies in their ability to sync geometrically, right? So we see it in nature. We see it all around us. So we are part of the universe and we are inherently part of nature. So we too, when we pair or when we correspond, we have to have a corresponding equivalence. And that's why so many relationships won't last, and they will last for a while. But as I said, the universe has a way of balance in itself out and bringing things back to its natural order. And if you are extraordinary, look, there are 4 brain waves that we all fluctuate between 4. There's 5, but there's 4 that we actually gyrate, or we fluctuate, or we saunter between 4 waves, and that's delta, theta, alpha, and beta in that order, respectively. And if you exercise, if you're someone who has a regular exercise routine, you're going to be in the alpha, beta brainwave predominantly. And that is because when you exercise, as I made mention before, the VTA, the striatum, the VTA, and the nucleus accumbens are actively secreting a tremendous amount of endorphins, dopamine, serotonin, and so on and so forth. And these chemicals, they overall, I can go into details of the particulars, but we'll keep it simple. These chemicals, they play a major role in mental health and mental stability. Studies and research shows that people who have a normal, actively, routine of exercising 30, 40 minutes a day, they cope with life stressors extremely better than people who don't exercise. They are able to be more productive in their lives than people who don't exercise. They're able to handle challenges, difficulties far exceedingly better than those who don't. This is medically proven. This is research. This is data, scientific and otherwise. So if you are someone who have that kind of a lifestyle and you're with someone who doesn't do active, who's not constantly activating these organs, not activating these regions, these chemicals on a regular routine basis, you're going to be in what's called beta or alpha, and you can go to a doctor and do an EEG, electroencephalograph, and you can verify this. You will fluctuate in a higher beta alpha brainwave. So that means your brain waves, you're going to be on a higher frequency. Therefore, naturally, you're going to be more productive. You're going to be more ambitious. You're going to be more driven. You are going to know how to cope and deal with life and all of life's challenges far more exceeding than the person who's fluctuating in delta and theta. Theta and delta are the lowest waves. And people who are not driven or who are not motivated are going to fluctuate in that area. So and right there, I proved the point scientifically. We don't have what's called a corresponding equivalence. We don't have a homologous pairing, right? If we follow genetics and physics, we can see that there's no synchronization between you and your spouse, because if you're constantly in beta and alpha and they're in theta and delta, you guys are on 2 different waves. So it's only a matter of time before the universe says, oh, wait a minute, we need to balance this thing out and bring back order to disorder. So I'm more than average. I'm more than an average dude. I would never toot my horn too much. That's not good. That's equally bad. But I can honestly say I'm extraordinary. I'm an extraordinary intellect. I'm an extraordinary species. Right? I am, in terms of evolution, I would be considered a very dominant species in terms of evolution. And if you have to study nature versus nurture, and know my lifestyle. And if you knew my lifestyle and you studied nature versus nurture and survival of the fittest, Darwinism would say that I am the pick of the litter. In terms of genetics, in terms of survival of the fittest, in terms of my genes, I would be considered extraordinary. But again, this is countless research. I'm giving you 5-10 minute conversation here. I've spent countless hours, months, years researching this stuff. So as a Homo sapien, as a primate, as a species, as an organism that belongs to the animal kingdom in terms of evolution, science, and genetics, I'm extraordinary. So I can't be dealing with ordinary folks. I can't be with ordinary people. I have to move in my, I have to sync or to have my corresponding equivalents. I have to be I have to match my frequency. And if I go outside of those laws and I violate those laws, the universe is going to spank me. So that's why I'm getting spanked right now, because I violated the universal laws and went against, my own better judgment. So anyway, I'm extraordinary. And if you're extraordinary, chant it, shout it, like be extraordinary, be confident and cocky as a mother. All right? Because the world will try to break you and take your confidence and take your self-esteem. So hold your chest out, hold your head up, be extraordinary, folks. Till next time, peace.